Today, we're gonna be taking a look at my brand new home defense setup for a handgun. And I know some of you are gonna be like, well, what about a rifle? I'll get to that later, and we're gonna talk about that because I am working on that currently. But today's video is gonna be about my home defense handgun. So everybody always has like this different opinion about like, well, what's best? You know, I'm not an expert. I can't tell you what I think would be best for you for your home defense, but I can tell you what would be best for me in my situation, because at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters when it comes to what gun is best for home defense is which one are you most comfortable with getting accurate rounds on target and stopping a threat. And that's pretty much it. Now, if you're new to this channel and you're not subscribed, kind of have to catch you up to date. The Glock 19 has always been my favorite handgun. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of fantastic handguns that I love. You know, we have M&Ps or FN 509s. I got a CZ, a couple CZs around here somewhere and a bunch of other stuff, but the Glock 19's just always worked best for me. Not because it's the best gun ever, but because it works best for me. And usually my daily carry is the Gen 5 MOS edition Glock 19. The only reason there's no red dot on it is because I'm waiting for height sights to arrive, because apparently with the MOS system, not all height sights play nice with it, and we'll cover more about that here in a minute. But I've always been a fan of the Glock 19 because I've never been a fan of the Glock 17. In fact, this is my very first Glock 17 that is actually like from the factory and OEM and stuff. Now, I do have experience with larger guns. The first full-size one was this one. This is a Glock 34, but I also have a Glock 17 slide here on the... I do own a Glock 17, I guess, quote unquote, but I've never liked the factory grip that came with the Gen 3 and the Gen 4. And we'll talk about why here in a little bit, and why the Gen 5 I now like it. And we're also gonna cover, you know, all the cool little mods and stuff that I have on here. It's not a lot, but I'm gonna cover the things that I think is important for a home defense gun. I'm also gonna talk about this holster that I have for it as well. So let's stop wasting time. Let's dive up close and take a look at it. Here we are with my home defense setup. I know, it's pretty simple and it's pretty basic, and I'm also gonna go over which ammo that I use right there. So like I mentioned earlier, I've never been a big fan of the Glock 17, but this one I'm actually quite a big fan of. And I'll also have links where you can pick up all of this stuff. So that way, if you see something you like, hey, you can check it out. I've already done a couple of videos with my Glock 19 MOS, but I wanted to make this video because this, to me, makes an amazing home defense gun because one, because it's larger, because it's more weighty, it's gonna be softer shooting. When you're under stress, if someone breaks into your house, and I feel like, you know, if you do have to defend your life, you want to have the easiest time protecting yourself as possible. And so that's why I chose Glock, because it's the gun that I'm the most comfortable with. On the front here, we have the Surefire XH35 weapon light. Very nice light, has momentary. I can do quick flicks with it, just like that. I can also have constant on, and then there is a switch on the bottom. I can actually grab it, and I'm in high mode right now. I could switch it to low mode, and you can also switch it while it's on, and then you can also switch it to strobe if you so choose to. I think it's always important to have some sort of light on your gun as well as a handheld light. And we're gonna talk about the handheld light here in a minute. For the mods that I've done on here, I got the Wheaton Arms trigger. I always prefer Apex, don't get me wrong, but this is a fantastic trigger as well. I'm actually running the OEM connector in it. Pretty much everything's OEM on it except for trigger shoe and the sights and the red dot. Everything else other than that, it's a stock gun. Now, I really like the MOS system because I feel like if you're gonna have to defend your life, you're gonna want to have an easy sighting system. There we go, you can kind of see that. Let me zoom you in. So if I press and hold this minus button right here, I can actually change that from a dot. It's a 32 MOA circle. Or if you press and hold it again, you can get a 32 MOA circle with a dot in the middle. I don't know how well you can see it, but in my dedicated video that I did for this, you can see it very, very well. Highly recommend the Holosun 507C if the Truglo RMR is out of your budget. And then I have these Truglo height sights. These are made specifically for the MOS because because the red dot sits a little bit higher, some of your shorter sights might not give you a full co-witness. But otherwise, shooting like a dream, and we're gonna go over the shooting footage here in a minute. The other reason I chose a Glock 17 instead of a Glock 19 was because you get 17 plus 1 rounds, total of 18 rounds. I will be carrying an extra mag. Now, the likelihood that you're ever gonna have to reload if you ever have to defend yourself is very low, but it's even lower when you have more capacity. Now, the 17, the problem I had with the original Gen 3 and Gen 4 17s were they were very blocky when you grabbed them. And then when I would grab the 19, it didn't feel as blocky to me. It felt more ergonomic. Well, then when I held the Gen 5, it felt just like a longer version of the 19 instead of a completely different gun, which is why I went with Gen 5 over to the Gen 3 or Gen 4. Now for the holster, I'm using this holster here. It was originally made for my Glock 34, but made for this light. And this is from Lost Concealment. People always correct me in the comments, say, hey, it's LAS. Well, it's Lost, whatever, I'm saving time. But I have it in my nightstand like this. Main reason that I have the holster in the nightstand is so that I can have the trigger protected. So if I do have to grab my gun, in the middle of the night, number one, I can put it on my pants if I have pants on. If not, whatever. But what I like about this is I can just have it without accidentally hitting the trigger while I'm trying to get my wits about me. And then I can take it out and I can start, going through the house. For my ammo that I use Hornady Critical Duty. I've spoken about this ammo in previous videos. This is the 135 grain flex lock. Couple things that I love about this round. Number one, I like the nickel casing. Nickel casings, for those who might not know about this, and I didn't know this for a long time either. Whenever you get a little carbon buildup in your chamber here, if you ever had like a malfunction or something like that, the brass can stick to the carbon on the inside of your barrel and you won't be able to get it out, because of the way the brass adheres to carbon. Well, with the nickel doesn't adhere to the carbon as easily, so you're less likely to get a malfunction like that one. The other thing I like about them is the flex lock, and essentially what this does, if you're new to guns or anything, with hollow points, their purpose isn't really to create more damage. It is, but the main purpose is to prevent over-penetration. And what I mean by that is if you shoot a hollow point at a wall, so to speak, let's say we shot this table straight down, that hole that's in the hollow point is going to get clogged with this material. And therefore, the bullet's not going to expand out. And that has been known to happen with articles of clothing as well. If you have just a bare hollow point, it can happen where it hits, gets clogged, and now it doesn't expand, and then it goes right through the person, and you could possibly hit an innocent bystander or one of your family members, which we don't want. And so with these, that little plug there prevents that from happening. So if it does hit something more solid, it will push that plug in and the plug will help it expand. That's why I choose those. I'm not going to say that it's the best round ever, but it's what I'm comfortable with and that's what I carry on a daily basis. And therefore that's what I'm going to use for home defense. So let's go over the shooting footage back up top. So let's talk about how the Glock 17 actually shoots compared to my other ones. Now these that I currently have right now, they've been modified so much that they shoot exactly the way that I want. Now with the Gen 3 and the Gen 4 grip modules for the 17, I never liked them. It felt like I was holding a block of wood. It felt nothing like the 19. However, now I feel like the new grip actually feels a lot like the 19. And what I mean by that is the length from the front strap to the back strap. In fact, they've thinned it out so much that I've added a back strap with the beaver tail on it to make it fit just right. Whereas before, without the back strap or the beaver tail, it felt too big then. And that's the main thing that I didn't like. With any type of home defense gun, you do want to have a weapon mounted light. You don't want that to be your only source of light. You want to have some other kind of handheld flashlight, because what if you get up in the middle of the night? You don't want to be aiming your gun at everything, because you might accidentally aim your gun at your child if you have a kid in the house thinking it's an intruder. And the last thing you want to do is to have your light and aiming your gun at your son or your daughter, and then maybe you get spooked and pull the trigger. So that's why a handheld light is very, very important. And for my home defense handheld lights, I use this little guy right here. I actually got to put a new battery in. It's J5 Tactical. Works really well. The only thing I don't like about it is it doesn't have a memory for the last setting that I put it on. So if I wanted it to be bright or not, I can't really change it without cycling through. So recently, I've actually switched to this little dainty fella, the Olight S1R, about a year ago now. Love this to death, because if I just need very little light, I just press and hold. Now we got half a lumen And you'd be surprised, in a dark house, you can see quite a lot with half a lumen. And when you're shining it on the floor, trying to, you know, pie a corner or something like that, it doesn't really give away your location as much. But then if you need to really just crank it up into full blast, you just double click it, and now 1,000 lumens to blind the crap out of somebody. Got to be careful with lights though, because they could reflect off of walls and mirrors and blind you. I actually had that happen in the backyard the other night. I took this outside looking for something, and it hit the white wall, and it actually did daze me a little bit. So little things that you got to think about. The trigger, maybe not. It depends on the state that you live in. There are some states out there that actually have laws against modifying your gun. There are some people who worry about lawsuits, things like that. I'm not an attorney, so check your local and state laws and make sure it's okay. Now, even if it is okay, there's this whole other section like, oh, you could be sued in civil court. I'm willing to take that risk in order to get better shots on the target that the bullets are intended for, instead of a stray bullet hitting an innocent bystander. That's my train of thought, but don't take my advice on the triggers for self-defense. The Truglo sights, like I mentioned earlier, I've been sitting on these sights for almost 2 years, because when I ordered them, Truglo did send them out to me. They asked me which ones I wanted to try, and I said, oh, I want those, because I needed some suppressor sights. And then I tried putting them on a regular Glock that was milled for a red dot, and they wouldn't work. And then they told me, oh, sorry, they're made for the MOS. And now that I have an MOS, I figured I'd throw those on there, and I threw the Holosun 507C. So for me, having a gun that's comfortable, has 17 plus 1 rounds, I got 18 rounds. I also have a spare mag that sits in my nightstand as well. I can throw that in my pocket. But I just have a light and a good sighting system. So under fear and under stress, hopefully, if I ever did have to pull that trigger, I hit the target that I need to hit, and it incapacitates that target so nobody else is hurt. That's kind of my thoughts on that. Now let's talk about rifles real quick. A lot of people like to use rifles for home defense. A lot of people like to use shotguns for home defense. The main reason that I'm choosing this for right now is because of my comfort level and my comfort with my abilities with a Glock, because that's the gun I tend to shoot the best. I do want to eventually do a 300 blackout pistol for home defense and get a suppressor, but I'm still working on that. But for home defense, I want something that's small, and I want something where I can get around corners, you know, really easily and not have to worry about lugging around a giant shotgun or a long rifle. In the next video I'm going to be comparing the MOS system to the FN 509 modular optics, and we're going to be comparing that to the M&P core modular optics to find out what the differences are between the three and see which one might be right for you or me. So that's going to be the next video, but if you want to watch other cool videos, I'll put a little link right up here for you so you can go binge on some other stuff. But let me know what you guys think about this down in the comments section below. What's your go-to home defense gun? But until next time, guys, get to that awkward part where I say like and subscribe, but I'm sure you're already expecting that and probably tired of it. So I'm just going to tell you, hey, I love you, and you guys stay sexy.